They dragged him out of his own trial, handcuffed, blood running down his face, uniform torn, and dignity bruised but intact. And before anyone could make sense of it, he said something that changed everything. "You have 17 minutes to release me." That line didn't come with a shout or a threat. Captain Elijah Brooks said it calmly, like he was reading it from a watchtower log, like it was already written. And that's what scared everyone more than the cuffs, more than the blood. The certainty. Now, before I tell you how we got there, let me take you back to that courtroom in Jackson County. It started like most days in court: stale air, humming lights, and a dozen people pretending not to be watching too closely. Elijah was brought in without shackles. He was out on bond. Could have come in wearing anything. But he walked in wearing his navy blues chest full of ribbons, posture upright, like the room owed him nothing but the truth. He didn't sit like a man begging for leniency. He sat like someone who'd been through harder rooms, tougher trials. Someone who'd buried men under flags and still saluted. Now the charge, assaulting an officer during a traffic stop, sounded simple until you listened close. No video footage, no body cam, just a report written like fiction and a couple of witnesses who saw nothing till they had to. But the uniform, oh, it rattled some folks, especially Sergeant Rick Harlan. The courtroom security who acted like his badge came with a crown. He stood at the edge of the room like a sniffing for excuses, eyes locked on Elijah from the jump. "You think that uniform protects you?" he muttered, just loud enough for us to hear. "Not in my court." Elijah didn't flinch. He just looked at the judge, kept his hands flat on the table. Calm, still. Then came the prosecutor, polished, practiced, smug. Tossed words like order, threat, rule of law around the room like they weighed something. But Elijah, he didn't defend himself with flair. No shouting, no pleading, just truth. "I placed my hands where they could be seen," he said. "I did not resist. I did not shout." I asked if the stop was lawful. The room was tense, but it held. Until Harlan decided that wasn't enough. He moved fast, grabbed Elijah by the wrist, slammed his arm down, twisted it till the cuffs clicked. The table shook. Elijah's head clipped the rail. A thin line of blood opened up on his temple, and the room lost its breath. "Stop resisting!" Harlan barked, voice rehearsed like he'd waited for this cue. But Elijah, face pressed to wood, voice steady, said, "I am not resisting." I saw his daughter, maybe 8 years old, wrap her arms around her mother, trying not to cry. His wife, she just sat, frozen hands over her mouth. I'll never forget that look. That was not fear. That was heartbreak. Judge Evelyn Maynard stood up, told Harlan to back off. He didn't, said security is mine, and leaned harder. That's when Elijah pressed his thumb against the face of his cracked Navy watch, smearing it with his own blood. And then, without raising his voice, he said it, "You have 17 minutes to release me." Now you could feel it, the shift in the air. People started checking the clock on the wall without even realizing it. What did it mean? A threat, a code. Nobody knew, except him. 6 minutes later, boom. 3 black SUVs pulled up behind the courthouse. Doors flew open. Out stepped a man who didn't shout or rush, just walked like the whole place already belonged to him. Special Agent Marcus Reed, Department of Defense, held up his badge and said, "Captain Elijah Brooks is under active protection. Protocol Delta 7. You could feel the word protocol land like thunder under your skin. Turns out 17 minutes was the official response time for unlawful detainment of military personnel under federal protection. Harlan didn't believe it. "This is my court," he yelled. "No." The judge cut him off. "This is a court of law." And law just walked in. Then Reed turned to Officer Grant, the young cop standing off to the side, pale and shaking. "Unlock the cuffs," he said. Grant hesitated, looked at Harlan, looked at Elijah, looked at the clock, and then clicked them open. That little sound, asterisk, click, asterisk, felt louder than a gavel. But it didn't stop there. They rolled in binders, turned the courtroom into a war room. Exhibit A, Stop data: 90% of drivers arrested in Sergeant Harlan's corridor were black. Exhibit B, an email from the precinct chief saying concentrate patrols in East Jackson, arrest ratios boost funding. And then Exhibit C, body cam footage quietly preserved by Officer Grant, showing Elijah flat-handed calm, never resisting. Just like he said, when that video played, nobody shouted, nobody gasped. We just exhaled, like we'd all been holding our breath for years. The judge's voice cracked through the room, steady, sure. This court chooses light. One by one, it all unraveled. Harlan cuffed by U.S. Marshals before he could spin another lie. The chief handed a federal summons, his face, pale eyes darting like a man waking up from a lie he'd built a career on. And Grant, he stood, voice shaking, and said, I can't lie anymore. It wasn't over. But the tide turned. And Elijah, he never left his seat. Blood dried on his temple. Watch still ticking. Wrists finally free. Weeks later, they cleared his name, promoted him. A year after, he walked back into that same courthouse, not as a defendant, but as a man carrying names of those who never got their day in court. A letter from Grant's wife in his pocket, thanking him for giving her husband the courage she thought he'd never find. And before he left, he looked up at the seal above the judge's bench and whispered something only the walls could hear. One call can shake the system. But justice needs every call after. So now I ask you, have you ever seen someone cuffed for telling the truth? Have you ever had to bleed? To be believed, drop your thoughts in the comments. Is one act of courage enough to bend the system? Or do we need 1,000 more? And if this story made you feel anything, anger, hope fire, hit subscribe and tell someone, because justice doesn't move unless we do.